Peace, family. All right, welcome to another episode, Black Magic 363. We got a goodie tonight, family. I got a new guest, and I got the legendary Blue Pillar 44, the 44 God in the building. Tell the people, tell your friends, tell your family that we are live. We about to get it going. I'm gonna let y'all fill in the chat, get comfortable. Let me just show y'all something real quick. I want to share something with y'all because we had a wonderful way. Give me a second, family. I want to so before I share this with y'all, I want to let y'all know, if y'all haven't heard the last show me and Blue did with Aquarius, when I tell you, if you see somebody named Black Magic 363 in the comments, it is not me. I've already reported it to YouTube. It's a scammer. He usually pops up. She usually pop up when I do shows on cryptocurrency, and they want you to make an investment or call a WhatsApp number. Um, I posted a video the other day, and they was all in the chat telling people, hit up this WhatsApp number. Just in case you didn't hear the last time when I said it, family, that is a scammer. Do not respond. Brother Rich, don't be all in the comments section. Y'all know that's not my style. So just be alert. Be careful when you in them comment sections, family, and people telling y'all to invest in this or invest in that. But we about to get it started. I want to share something with y'all real quick. I'll do that later. Let me just give my brother a shout out. Let me give my brother King Simon a shout out because he's one of the best when it comes to numerology. And the brother's always out there doing his thing. So I want to make sure you call his number 347-496-1022 for an appointment. Text him your full name and date of birth, and that brother will be sure to get back to you. All right. So listen, like I said, we back. I got a new guest with us tonight. Blue Pill, you'll know the brother Rod Hayes. Rod Hayes, I want you to introduce yourself to the Black Magic 363 family and tell them who you are, brother. First time here.
Well, yeah. My name Rod Hayes. I'm just a little local guy that figured out a riddle and put
Mm-hmm.
me in a position.
Right.
Um, but I'm pushing the agenda right now. Free Larry Hoover.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So they seen the concert. Then some of the people didn't see the interview after I had read the messages from Mexico from the hurricanes. So, to give a little background on weather read, if we remember the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey in his famous whirlwind speech, right? He told us about the ancestors using the weather to relay us messages. So, that speech pre calibrated all of the chiefs to watch the weather patterns while we reading the signs in order to know what's going on across the land, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So he said to look for him in the cyclone, in the whirlwind, right? Look for me in the storms. I'm coming back with the millions and millions of ancestors. That's what Garvey said in his whirlwind speech, right? Tupac put it a little different. Lost in his whirlwind, 96, Bonnie and Clyde, me and my girlfriend. So he still took the idea to pass the message to look for the whirlwind, right? So in 2018, Cyclone Marcus struck Australia. There was a series of sevens in there, which my number is seven, right? And I come in on the third seven seat, which mean the my mother was a seventh seed, I was a seventh seed, my grandfather's seventh seed. So in our culture, that's a lightning strike, a lightning bolt, right? So we don't remember our culture because somebody came in and undermined our processes of passing the culture from generation to generation. Even as we evolve into different levels, we still maintain certain key aspects of the culture. And as I read the culture, and I matched up the signs when that message gave me the cue to get to work, right? And as I began to read the signs, I discovered that on July the 4th, 2019, that's when the contract expired on the constitutional agreement for the corporation to do business on our land, right? So I read this and I look at it, 7-4 is GD. So it's a GD knock. That's a knock to the growth and development nation, right? So we looking at 20, that's the P stone. And in Chicago, they say 20 mo, right? But they used to have a 21 brick pyramid, right? So when I'm reading the signs and reading the culture, I'm matching up who these people are on the land. I was born a GD. All my family in my age group was GDs. We all grew up GDs. Chicago, the Crenshaw district, um, where we went to Crenshaw Elementary, and we grew up in that area, and that's the area where we tie back like 63rd and Halsted all the way into 59th and Peoria, and varying different areas over there is where we were living at different times when I was a little youngin'. So this is how I got affiliated at birth with all of my cousins. We all GDs, all of the ones in my age group. The irony is my mother was the queen of the Vice Lord Nation, Big Red, right? And she went into domestic life and she taught us certain things about reading the signs, and only certain ones of us understand her and what she's telling us. And my father was also teaching us certain things, teaching the boys on really like how to be a man, right? And then these lessons, when we put them together and we follow it through the culture, it teaches us something about who we are and why we here. We have a tendency to think everybody is just here. Ain't nobody just accidentally here. Ain't nobody here that ain't supposed to be here. Everybody supposed to be here, even the ones that we don't want here, right? Because you can't get from under the oppressor if he ain't here. So we got to get from under that yoke. What is the yoke? The yoke is this mental bondage, right? So the mental bondage, the education and the industriousness that Garvey talked about would lay the foundation for all of the groups, contemporary and to follow, on the father line, which is the Blue Lodge, right? So when we say Blue Lodge, what a lot of people don't understand is the Masonic orders was how we train boys in the rites of passage of manhood and how to use their inner power as their God force to become their God self, or their best self is how we would say it, right? Somebody came over here and took all of our boys out of the training. So now none of them can't develop that God self inside because they keeping it a secret and they keeping it boxed in by people that don't look like us. And the people that's controlling it look just like us, but they ain't us. So all this time they use these many forms of divide and conquer to tear us down. They took over education with their churches and their Bible thumping, and they started to miseducate our children on purpose and teach them that we came over on ships. We was already here. Our ancestors said they didn't see any ships. I had a live earlier today. A brother from Jamaica called in on the live, and he said, "Hey, my ancestors said they didn't see no ships." So what is our ancestors sending that message to the future for? They didn't see no ships. We still don't see no slave ships. We see drawings of slave ships, We see museum replicas where somebody make one in the modern time and ascribe it to what a slave ship would have looked like, right? But we can't find one. Now they find shipwrecks of Chinese fleets that was in the BC period. They find
Yeah.
Viking ships.
They find the Roman ships with the coins still in them, intact and
They
shit like that.
and they know where
As
all of the
as
wrecks
as
at.
rambunctious as these people is, they would have had that shit like an amusement park. Come
They
in, yeah, like put the chains on in the bottom. You know how sick they are.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so they know where all of the shipwrecks at, right? Because they know where to go scavenger hunting for the ships that sunk with all of the wealth on them, right? So now they got us under the impression that we came from somewhere else and they're using their Bible, so we got to reenact that story in order to unravel it. Because the story is where we tied up in the brain. They force fed us Christianity, so only through understanding that dogma, where it came from and who put it together, can you unravel the magic in it that keeps us oppressed. That's some powerful magic. Because when we understand who and what we is, we be laughing at that shit, right? Blue pill look at the mathematics in it, right? I look at the science in it. But then I also look at the history of it, right? And so what make this into what it is and how we get free from under the mental bondage. So all this time they've been telling the people they waiting on the Christ to return. They've been telling them they've been under the devil's rule with the all the way in the same book that they put them under the devil's rule with. So
Okay. Yeah.
when I come in now, I come in to teach the people who our true leaders is, why they are not walking on the land. What happened? We at war. We've been at war over 500 years. We ain't never stopped. We never back down. Right? So the chiefs on the land that we supposed to have keeping the land regulated is Larry Hoover, Jeff Ford, Chief Malik Angel Bay, and Stan Tukey Williams. They turn us into criminals while they do the criminal acts they accuse us of doing. Right? Our people is so convinced that they system, the matrix, the artificial matrix, the grand illusion that's constructed in front of your face, you falling for the David Copperfield making the elephant disappear. Right? Only they making your whole world disappear from under your feet, and you was already here. And they're using legalese to do it. And they're using medicine to murder you slowly. Right? So we have to go back to our original culture in order to get the imposters and the invaders off the land. And in our original culture, we put it in the public domain, the demand, and if the people agree, they all step up and agree. And when they all agree on the same thing, that means we really do know who we are now. We no longer under the illusion that we came over on some ships. I done studied the history of both sides of the water. There's no record over there outside of the coastal lands where they imported some of us over to there with a Back to Africa project that predated Garvey, what they called it the Liberia movement, when everybody went to Liberia. And this is when they start infusing that story on that side of the water. Because they ain't know what the fuck we was talking about when we send delegates over there and ask them, why is our people being shipped off from over here on the, why y'all sending us over there? And they don't know what the fuck we talking about. They clueless. Right? So the people that they bring from over here under false pretense, telling them they came from over there. They the ones infused with the doctrine of the slave ship, right? Because over there you have what they call the war tunnels. They call them slave trading. You could feel the energy in there, and they tell them that's where they loaded slave ships. That's not. Those are gateways of the ancestors, is what they was called. And we all went to those types of places all over the world, right? And we went there to commune with the ancestors and to get the overwhelming energy for them to give us instructions on what to do next. Because they can see from the other side of the three-dimensional construct, because they're not trapped in the dimensions of space and time as we are. So we came in, put on these meat suits, and then we got divided up, and we don't even know that if you in your God self, in your God form, all this shit is some shit projected from your psyche. We just all agreed to be here at this time in order to put it together in this particular fashion. And because so many of us agreed to bring this shit to an end, now we got to bring it to an end. Right? So then one of us got to spearhead the movement. Right? So when I see the brother, the blue pillar, do the mathematics, he know exactly what the fuck he talking about. Right? He know exactly what he talking about. He don't give you a roundabout. He tell you exactly what he's saying. And then he give you the reference. I'll be over here. That make my job so much easier because he can give them the numbers. Right? You could do the math on Larry's birthday. Do the math on Chief Malik Angel birthday. You know, pull their birthdays up. Pull up Tuki's birthday. Do the math on it. Look up at the stars, what the stars was doing when they was born, and that tell you who they is, and that'll verify it better than I could ever do as a man in this three-dimensional construct. Because the universe ain't gonna lie to you. A man will lie to you. Them numbers don't give two flying fucks how you feel about it. They just gonna tell you what the numbers say. Right? And that's when you get to understand what the blue pillar is talking about. Because now he don't even have to tell you from his opinion now. He don't even need an opinion. The stars is here. The North Star here. The Polaris. The Draco is over there. The Cepheus is back here. You know what it means. Now we just got to get our people to snap out of this daze. It's called the hypnosis of life. And from that training session we went through called school, it had us deluded into thinking that the people that told us our history and lied to us every step of the way broke every single treaty they made with the people they tried to replace us with. They didn't even make no treaties with us because we wasn't making no treaties with them. Right? And even some of the ones they brought over here and tried to trick into making the treaties with them wouldn't make treaties with them. So now we at the point where we gonna either reclaim our communities or continue to stay in a slave system. If the system is absolutely a slave system, Wall Street was founded on slavery. The United States Corporation was a merger of the Virginia Corporation and the Northwest Trading Company. Those were two of the biggest trading companies of the day, and they merged to form the United States Corporation to continue their slave trading enterprise. And by deluding the people into believing they working in the interest of the people, when all the time they are leeches sucking the blood from the people. Right? So they told us some man named Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves. Emancipation Proclamation has nothing to do with freeing the slave. It's a commerce term. Has nothing to do with freedom, liberation. Emancipation means the transfer of an asset. The proclamation is to say it out loud. So he hollered across the goddamn Senate floor and told him, I'm taking all of the personal slaves and putting them into the public domain. So we gonna walk around as straw men. This is in the law books. I didn't make that shit up. They wrote it. I'm just telling you what they was hiding from us because they said if they wanted to hide something from a nigga, put it in the book. Well, I must not be no nigga because I've been in all they books, getting all they little secrets out. So now I come back to tell us what time it is, what we face with, what our responsibility is at this particular time, and to tell y'all our culture and how we done things and to kick the enemy out by reclaiming our own and doing the shit our way. You can't never kick your enemy out your house following his rules. That don't even make sense. He not gonna give you no rules that's gonna help you overthrow him. So anybody tell you to file paperwork with the enemy, they validate that illegitimate system by filing the paperwork. Everything we did was an adhesion contract. It was deception. When they gave us the birth certificate, which is a bearer bond tied to an indemnity account, right? And the indemnity account is tied to a trust. This is our money that they've been living off of because they can't keep it from us as long. Because once we know that it's ours, ancient code of thieves kick in. At any time the rightful owner discovers his property, he have the absolute right to reclaim his personal property. Right? That's the ancient code of thieves. That go back so long, y'all probably gonna have a hard time finding it. It was also oral tradition. It was under Kali Ma. It was the orders of the great Kali Ma. You can live off of it as long as you got it. You can charge motherfucker admission to come see King Tut's tomb. But soon as these heirs come back and realize that you got their shit, all they got to do is point to it and you got to return it. Because once they identify who they are, you have to return what you took. It wasn't put in there haphazardly because they know that the cycle end at the close of the age, everything must be restored to balance. In order to go from one age into the next, it is the responsibility of those they call the gods of the earth, which is actually the women, to restore the balance to the nature of the earth, and the men is supposed to enforce the rule. But when the men are incapacitated, the women can't do their job. They can't take the children out planting because some predator might come up and snatch one of the babies because the men not in position to protect them. You know, this is where we at. We gotta stand up on our own 2 feet. Can't look for the white man on this one because when you realize that the white man ain't white, your feelings gonna be hurt because he look like us. Then when you find out you've been playing with one of the motherfucking main influencers' kids, and he the one that was telling you to go do something to your own people because his daddy told him how to rule you, how to run you. Right? So they did this.
Who you referring to? Who you referring to?
They were called the Zionist Moors. They came over here as conquistadors. Right? So when you look into history, you look up the black conquistadors, them motherfuckers ain't us. They came over here and brought us war. That's all they ever brought over here is war. And we never stopped fighting. We just was in the conjure war. All of the money of the land is held up until the conjure war come to a close. And the only way to close is for the people to become aware of who they is, because the conjure war was predicated upon you not being able to recover your mind, your God mind, not your ego self that they told you was who you was, the one that's really you. They tell you to follow your motherfucking ego. They build your ego. They build your ego in education or miseducation, I should call it. Right? So once they build your ego, They already know how to lead that motherfucker. The hard part is to break through the ego and get to the true God form and make them realize, motherfucker, you was walking on air. You didn't need to levitate. You was literally walking across the air. Now you so mentally low vibrational, you can't raise your frequency enough to step out into the air because you're gonna hit the ground and you're gonna hit it hard.
Skywalkers.
Those names, not just those names for no
For no
reason.
reason. Right, right.
Everybody got a different ability. This is what your X-Men comics is about. They just exaggerate the ability, right? But they exaggerate it so you can have an affinity to the ability that's actually your real ability. Now you just got to turn it down 1,000 to find out how it really works, right? So Cyclops actually looked through people and see their soul. That's why he able to make them disintegrate when he see it, with the power of his eyes. That's just the exaggeration, right? Rogue, touch you, absorb your power. She's an empath. Turn it down some. It's just exaggerated, you know. So when we tell people free Larry Hoover, we got to understand that it was an orchestrated, organized government plot of the corporation to undermine us ever reclaiming what we own and who we are. They can live off of it as long as we don't know how to reclaim it. But once we know how to reclaim it, we use our culture. We talk across the land. We use everything that they put on the land to give a message. We use the TV, we use the radio, put it in the songs. You know, I don't care. They say mumble rap ain't saying shit. That's the problem. Mumble rap is mumble rap because they can't say what they want to say, so they trying to mumble the words. Because you know that they used to mumble to get past massa. But we forget that. We can't make that connection because we got short-term memories. We don't have long-term memories. We don't watch the long game. If we was watching the long game, we would have understood we've been locked in war for a long time. Right? So you need a warlock to break you free, and I'm the motherfucking witch doctor. From birth. I was born to be the witch doctor. So since everybody locked in war, I got to tell them how to unlock it. Call for the 3 chiefs to walk the land. It is the law of nature that if the 3 kings don't walk the land, when the people call on them, that Mother Nature will tear this motherfucker up. You don't have to shoot no guns. Mother Nature will tear it. I've been posting receipts on it earlier today on my page. You don't have to do nothing. You don't got to go marching nowhere. That's a distraction. All you got to do is make it known that you want to see the 3 kings walking on the land, because it's the responsibility of whoever's supposed to be in power to produce that, or the power structure comes down through the aid of the weather, the earthquakes, the tornadoes, the hurricanes, the thunderstorms. All the ancestors coming back. They coming back in the weather. They coming back in the children, and they coming back
Yeah.
from the stars. I don't even like to
Volcanoes.
talk about the stars.
Right. The volcanoes. They just had a hurricane warning the other day. They just had the tsunami warning the other day. We saw the quad state tornadoes, which was actually 6 states. They said it was 44 tornadoes.
Mm, crazy.
That was the day
Tornadoes in
after we did
December,
the
right?
show initially about, Larry Hoover. And what I left out when I finished the show that I wanted to say, when I think somebody had asked me a question about um, us being from Africa or America or something to that nature. And I wanted to say that, Cahokia Mounds in the area that Chicago is geographically located, you know, Cahokia Mound is a particular mound where our ancestors met for war. That was the mound for war council. So again, looking and expecting that energy to be templated by people in this environment, you will look towards, the youthful leadership that was coming out of Chicago during that particular time. That there was the youthful war council. You know what I'm saying? It somewhat replicates itself. And the reason, like, even if you look at the Midwest, the spirit of this particular landmass, right, that they call Wakanda, the way that you appease this particular spirit, you feed it. And the way that you feed it corn. So, observe the Midwest demonstration that the European, this colonizer, he's always going to have corn growing, even if it's miles and miles and miles of fields of GMOs. You know what I'm saying? So that's how he keeps his tribute going. He grows corn and tobacco. Those are the two things that you need to feed and appease the spirit of this particular land. But I just wanted to make that observation. When we think about the Midwest and what role does it play, in us reemerging on this soil in our proper person hundreds of thousands of years later, the ancient mound builders that were in that area utilize that area for war council. All points converged on that particular area of the planet for us to do what it is that we're doing right now. All right, put that on mute.
Yeah, so just to give the people some context to how the brother arrived on the show. A lot of people just the Rod Hayes and welcome to the family. We had about 1,000 people in the chat room. Welcome everybody in the chat. But the brother Rod Hayes, a lot of people just kept sharing his videos with me. And in an organic way, not spamming me to try to, in an organic way. I would just see this person, that person share the brother's videos about Larry Hoover and the Three Kings. And the brother, Rod, you say some intriguing, interesting things. And where the place where you come from, it resonated with me. It struck a nerve with me. So I said, damn, I gotta get this brother on the show. And then when the Kanye concert happened, after that went down and they did the Larry Hoover concert, I was like, yeah, I definitely got to get the brother on the show to get some more, have him go a little bit more in depth about what's going on. Why is Larry Hoover named so much everywhere right now? I just keep hearing it. Every month I hear it a little more and a little more and a little more and a little more. And you was one of the brothers behind it. I heard you months ago, and I'm like, damn, this brother, he keep talking about Larry Hoover and sounding spiritual. So that's what made me reach out to the brother family and get him on the show. You talk about our powers. Let me just ask you this, and you just went off in the beginning, and it was powerful. So that was what a way to start the show, brother. I appreciate you for just going in your bag in the beginning. But one of the things you say, we're so brainwashed, as you say. We went to these things we call school, which was just brainwashing facilities, and they don't teach us about these powers that all the spiritual teachers tell us we have. And one thing I heard you say, you talked about the woman, you always talk about the goddesses and when they twerk and how that affects the weather. Now that's something to an intellectual, somebody who's educated through the school system. That's the craziest shit. They're like, oh, this dude is completely nuts. Tell me the science of that. Tell me the science of that, my brother.
So
twerking.
If you remember when hip hop first started, it used to be a very common theme in hip hop. My grandma and your grandma were sitting by the fire. We used to always be around the fires. The women used to do the conjure with the dance. The rain dancing is the men's job. The earth shaking is the women's job. The sway of the matriarch is an old tradition in our community where the women and so we didn't have to fight bombs. We used the weather. We didn't need heart. These women are HARP. They Tesla coils of energy. And when they sync together and they come to an agreement and they dance and they shake the earth shake back. Right? So when you see all of these local cultural dances, Like they got ballrooming in Chicago. That's a conjure. Straight out of New Orleans. When you see them hillbillies box stepping, fox trotting, that's conjure, right? All of these dances are old conjures. They come from the subconscious mind, and people think they're making a new dance. You're not making a new dance, you're remembering an old conjure. The movement of the body, when synced with nature, it's like a ripple in the pond, right? The more powerful the person is, the bigger the stone you drop in the pond, the bigger the ripple, right? So the power of the women is drawn by Tesla coil sequencing. Put them in the ground, line them up, 369, 369, and let them twirl. If you go back to the Salem witch hunts, this is one of the things that inspired the massacre of women all across the land. Because they caught the sisters teaching them in the woods how to do the sacred dances to call nature. So they killed everything that looked like they was dancing. This is what the Holy Ghost is in the church. The Holy Ghost of the church, it ain't in the Catholic Church. Why it ain't in the Catholic Church? It ain't in the Church of Canterbury. Why it ain't over there? Why they don't catch the Holy Ghost? But they catch it in the Vadum, dancing around the fire, shaking their bum bum, buck winding, tootsie rolling.
Think about the suppression of that institution becomes so catalyzing that them women, they be like, oh, I gotta let it. And they just start letting
They
go.
just gotta
Because they suppressing that coil. You suppressing the coil, then the shit take over you. And it starts riding you. You feel me? And I'm sure that that's what everybody has witnessed in church. It's because I've witnessed it in spiritual ceremonies when women get mounted. It's the same shit. And they're dancing on purpose. They know what that intertanglement or intertwine is gonna bring. Because we have said it before, they represent orgone energy, the swaying of their hips, right? It creates orgone energy. Orgone energy is called God energy. That's what you create with. You feel me? So there's something very spiritual in essence
They
about them shaking the earth.
they scientists even created some shit called an orgone accumulator to try to tap into that energy, and they can't use it the same as a living organic female with a functional uterus. If the conjurer is strong enough and her uterus been removed, because this is why they desecration of the sacred places is the removing of the uterus and the cutting off of the breast. A woman never have to have breast cancer because it comes from a clogged duct. If they keep the ducts functioning properly with the proper herbs that they used to eat on a regular basis, but they probably don't even know what the fuck they is now. They never, breast cancer's new. All cancer new. That's not normal, right? They give people cancer. It's not hard to do. The lower your nutrition is, it damages your DNA helix during the DNA RNA replication.
Right. This is a wonderful time to just interject. Family, please, if you just do it for 30 minutes, go listen to the Robert Kennedy book about Fauci. He explains that post 1984, 85, all of these acute diseases that were never seen in our community, some of them that didn't even exist. We live with them now and we think that they're normal, but a lot of this shit is very modern, and it all comes under the reign, under Anthony Fauci. But diabetes, my mother said in the 50s and the 60s and all of that, that Europeans had diabetes. That wasn't something melanated people had. This outgrowth of cancer, all of this is tied into around the time that petrochemicals became a mainstay. You know, we didn't have those issues before. And when we were agrarian and had a plant based diet, and when I mean a plant based diet, I don't mean that we was vegans. I mean that we was eating greens, turnips, stuff out of the ground directly, and we was eating meat in rations, but we had the provisions and the food directly out of the ground. We was still getting the direct minerals. We was defeating all of them things. Think about it. There's no legacy. I said this on Block Talk the other, I mean on Clubhouse. There was no categorical history or record of melanated people dropping in the fields from skin cancer. Why? How, Sway? Right? They was in the sun all day. Some of them with their skin exposed. There's no record of them having skin cancer or cancer for that matter.
Mm.
Right? So just think about that.
Mm. Indeed, yeah, definitely. Just to touch on the dancing aspect. Before we leave that topic, Rod. I heard you mention crip walking. I guess crip walking. There's some spirituality behind crip walking, huh?
Yeah, that's a part of a accumulation of the rain dance. That's called the lightning.
The lightning.
The lightning. So in ancient times, it used to be called crooked walking. The crooked
Mm-hmm.
man walking across the land. That's lightning.
Mm-hmm.
That's Big Tookie,
Mm-hmm.
right? All of the Crips that Crip walk in his honor gives power to that force of lightning that we call the crooked man, right? So when they first thawed Tookie out, because they had him in cryostasis, and when they first thawed him out, then the Crips went to Crip walking. It was lightning every goddamn where.
Mm.
I was reporting it in real time while it was happening, and I was telling them and I was showing them. I was like, "Look, the Crips walking, and Tookie waking up out of this motherfucking frozen state. You know, this finna be a problem for the system because now they got the third king added to the equation."
Yeah. And I can attest that post 2019, there has been definitely a very pronounced Crip resurgence. You know, when we went to Nipsey's homegoing service in LA, we was like, this shit is like a Crip cathedral. I ain't never seen so many Crips in my life. And in terms of it becoming imprinted on culture, it just pretty much has taken a stronghold. You know, you've seen the Crip resurgence in Brooklyn by way of the Brooklyn Crips and the Woos and the Chews and all of that. So, you know, can you speak to what relationship, whether it's esoteric or whether it's something that connects to you know, the bonds, what relationship do Chicago street organizations have with LA gangs?
Um, it's funny you would say that because we all vice lords, right? That's Big Mama house. Larry and Jeff from Mississippi, and Tookie from Louisiana, I believe, right? And all that is Big Mama's territory. So when Big Mama boys go out, we connected across the land. We don't have to have eyes on each other to know what each other doing. So when I was a little boy, Big Mama told me that when I get big, I, I was to leave no stone unturned. I didn't know what it meant as a child, but she was talking about restoring the land and restoring the people and putting the kings back in their positions. I began to learn that over time as the many messages that her and my mama gave me begin to just come together um like transformers in my brain, and it just started clicking, right? And once it started clicking, like I'm having dreams, I'm having visions. I'm like, man, this is like I'm going through it, you know, on a spiritual front. Like it wasn't for the weak. So I see why they told me to do it because they said wasn't nobody else gonna do it. right? Because the spiritual work is so trained on the psyche that if you're not an old soul, you might not be able to make it, right? So um when the connection come in is that all of them was dispatched. It was more than them, right? Them just the three high chiefs on the land, right? And they came to me in the dream as three sky chiefs, which was three constellations of stars written in three chiefs' head in full feather regalia. Now I got to figure out who they is and where they at, right? And that's where the problem come in at because I'm seeing a culture that's not our culture. So now I got to read this new culture because if it was just our culture, I could have found them in 20 minutes. But in this new culture that's overlaying our culture upside down and backwards, now I have to do comparative analysis, cross references, right? I have to extrapolate from a key phrase or certain word that somebody dropped in the 1800s, right? I had to go do all this control remote viewing back in time to see who was doing what. Right now, I got to learn how to do this shit though. I don't just know it. And then I can't tell nobody while I'm learning because they already think I'm crazy because of the shit that I be saying. It's outside of their ability to comprehend and their cognitive dissonance. The only remedy for it is to assume that I'm insane. Right? But the psychologists and the psychiatrists, they wanted to know when I was going to open the school so they could get classes.
Right.
So,
Hey,
I
hey, you,
mean,
hey, Rod, you referred to this. I believe I was watching a YouTube video earlier. I think it was the channel was a Galactic Talk or something. You referred to what's going on as uh, galactic chess game
yep.
and on a 5D chessboard. I want you to elaborate on that. I never that kind of caught my that my son got shit on my face, y'all. Yeah, elaborate on that a little bit for me.
So the fifth dimensional chessboard is a conjure weapon. And we was
Explain
challenged
for
to a
those who
fight.
don't know. Explain when you say conjure weapon. I just want the people to know, just in case they don't know what you mean by that.
Conjure weapons are those things used in spiritual warfare while you on the earth.
Mm.
5D galactic chess consists of almost every game you could think of. They all involved at the same time. They playing, you got to play on every board. I'm talking you playing Scrabble, you playing Yahtzee, you playing kid game tag, stop and go,
Mm.
right? When you put them all together, but you got to only play them from a mental standpoint, which puts you in fourth dimensional matrix, mind matrix, right? So they say it's a game of masterminds.
Mm.
And the mastermind is the man who masters his mind. But it's a board game because you got to be bored to play it. That means that the rules come from the board games, right? Then, if you're really good in the galactic chess game, you can put puzzles together in a holographic framework in the mind, and you can put together three-dimensional puzzles. Take them apart. So you learning how to use the mind for higher thought, as it say in the Christian Bible. Let this mind be in you, which was in Christ Jesus, who thought not it a sin to be equal with God.
Mm.
Right. In other words, put your mind in God mind, put God mind in you. Psychoanalyze God, you will be absorbed by your God mind. Right. If you learn forensic profiling, do a profile on the characters in the Bible, and then you start to see a different story than this narrative you've been given. Right? Because we're looking at a psychopathic, narcissistic, sociopathic, pedophile predator with homosexual tendencies. That's in Lil, right? But then he's going to war with this other one. This all loving, kind, compassionate, caring God. That's Inky. So now it's a war going on, the 19th song versus the 119th song. When the birds of the feather flock together, Enlil's children go home to him. They look like us, but they ain't us. They come from a different branch of the family tree off of a different galactic order,
Hmm.
right? So we not looking at all of the different cultures collectively in order to find out what's going on. We only looking at American History 101, algebra, right? Then we get to college where we might do some real stuff like take up some arts and entertainment classes or something, you know, couple business classes, learn how to function real good in the slave system. My mind is saying, how we gonna take this shit over the whole time? I'm gonna play this motherfucking game, but when my brother's gonna wake up so we can take this shit back over, put everything back how it's supposed to be, raise the matriarchy, put the power where it goes so everything will run the way it's supposed to run, right? So when we study, listen to music, we always picking the side. Who the best? Biggie or Pac? Pick a side. Who the best? Michael Jackson, the Prince? Pick a side, right? Who better? Jackie Wilson or Sam Cooke? Pick a side. You like rock and roll or rap? Pick a side. Everything that they can do to divide you up into different categories and classifications, they're gonna do it, including label you the colors of crayons. Ain't no black people, ain't no white people, right? The reality of it is those are chess terms. But if you don't know the legalese, you'll never know that because they give it to you in the colloquial language as crayons. And then they tell you that these people was black people and these people was white people. But they don't ever tell you that the black people in law is civilly dead people. And the white people in law are the people who is the ones owning the ones that's civilly dead. That's why they trade like a birth certificate and death certificate on the international stock exchange. Right? So once one of us know, our culture say, don't shut the fuck up till we all of us know sufficiently enough to change the condition. Right? So I ain't shutting up.
Hey, you talked earlier about us being here in America and not coming from slave ships. Over the past 5 years, we witnessed with Donald Trump, especially when he was in office, we witnessed the knocking down of a lot of Confederate statues. Now, I also heard you say the Confederates, that was our shit, that was us right there. So, could you give us some history of the Confederates? I'm sure a lot of us are miseducated on who the Confederates really were
The
and why.
real
And
Confederates is the Confederate, the Iroquois Confederation of Nations. That's the Confederates. And they ruled from the South. They didn't rule from the North, right? And that's why they say the South will rise again. That's why they gave us the northern upward orientation on the map. That's not the right orientation. So you automatically disoriented looking at the map because your perception is upside down already. So the
Can you explain
Confederation
that to them,
was
please?
the, said again, Peel,
And I said, can you explain that to them? Can you walk them through that
which part?
about the map being upside down?
Yeah, so we was always a southern oriented people. All of our ancient maps, the south is up, right? And um north is down. They gave it to us backwards in order to disorient us. You ever hear people say the sun rise in the west and set in the east?
Mm-hmm.
Because they got us looking at it backwards. Everything is upside down and backwards. That's so that you can never get the proper orientation to gain your
Right.
bearings.
Right. Your bearings, your directions, your connection to Polaris. Case in point, we can geographically settle the argument right now. Right. I'm in the South. I'm in Georgia. It's at a 3,500 foot elevation. Rich is in New York, right, which is at sea level. So is he up north or is he down north? Am I up south or am I down south? Just think about it, y'all.
Yeah, you actually up south,
Thank you.
right? So the land they call down under, Australia is really on the top of the world, right? But they want us to think it's Alaska and the North Pole is the top.
Right. It's
Now,
Australia. That's why they want a top down approach. They got the camps there first to trickle it down.
so what do this mean psychologically? You already disoriented. You already looking at stuff upside down. So when they teaching you the map, this information is going in upside down and backwards. Your true self know that it's upside down, but it's trying to figure out how to tell your ego self. But your ego self believe what the world around it tell it to because your ego is conceived by the world outside you. Your true self is who you was when you was born, without nobody telling you who you are. Right? So different cultures, we have different rituals for naming children. Some children don't even get a name till they 5 years old because a character hasn't pronounced itself enough in order to identify who and what they are. Right? Some children tell you what their name is at an early age. You gotta keep asking them every day. You ask them, "What's your name? What's your name?" And the baby gonna tell you. Sooner or later, the baby gonna tell you what their name is. It normally take around 9 months, and the mother got to be persistent. Now I don't know if this is the case, but I believe that's why Affinity changed Tupac's name at 9 months because I believe he told her who he was, so she gave him his name. Right, so that automatically puts them at odds with the corporation. Any one of us that remember who we are at that early of an age is an automatic problem. We are automatic problem, right? So what do is we start to return back to our cultural ways, right? It's certain stuff that we do and certain stuff that we just don't do, right? We don't cover up bad men to keep the good men from correcting them, right? In this system, they got bad men gonna come in and correct the bad man. Make that shit make sense. The devil gonna correct the devil, but he gonna take all the good men in the process. So he only not really correcting the bad men. He just using them as the hedges to wrap in the good men. Take the chiefs off the land and leave the people in disarray. Where there is no structure, there is no order. And where there is no order, you can send them in no direction. It's just basic human knowledge of the human species. How do we move? We move with nature. There's somebody here not moving with nature, but is moving exactly the opposite of nature. Right. So when we talk about restoring the balance, going back to the matriarchy, restoring might, this is what we're talking about. Going back to nature. We can have nature and Silicon Valley. But Silicon Valley got to follow nature rules. Nature don't got to follow Silicon Valley rules. So they came with AI because they thought AI could beat God. And God whooped AI ass with a 19-point convergence to override a 4-point convergence in quantum encryption. Because God got 19 points of quantum convergence, that 4-point quantum convergence that AI do will not keep up, right? And this is the sacred sealing of the AI in order to keep it from taking over the world, right? So we have to know our culture, our ways, and how all of these things come together. So when they take the map and turn it upside down, they also turning your psyche upside down. But you don't know it because it happens that you're at such an early age, you never had a chance to orient yourself to the world around you. And they taking the babies earlier and earlier. Daycare at 8 months old, 6 months old, 4 months old. Mama got to go back to work. If that ain't insanity, I don't know what is. You muted.
All right, y'all should hear me now. Yeah, this is some good conversation here, family. I want to thank everybody. We at the hour mark right now. I'm gonna take Q&A soon. I see they've been asking questions the whole show, man. They're excited. So I want to get to them and allow them to ask some questions to the
Yes, sir.
brother. Make sure y'all donate, family. We got about 1,300 people in here. Hit up the Cash App if you are
Um,
benefited from this
Brother
show.
Rod, you want
Yeah.
to share any of the 44 information that you shared with me?
Wait, hold up, Blue. Damn, I had another one more announcement. Damn, you made me forget. Damn. Go ahead, Blue. Go ahead. I forgot what I'll think of it later. I'll think of it later. Yeah.
Yeah, hold on. Before we do that, shout out to Chicago Crypto Hustler, blockchain, Bitcoin Bully. You know, I know that y'all did an
Oh, that's what it
amazing
was. Yeah, thank you, Blue.
presentation,
Yeah, that's what it was, Blue. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It was fire. I'm sure that you want to speak on that.
Yeah, I wanted to everybody who's looking for the masterclass, it is now available on the website blackmagicuniversity.com. That magic is spelled with a K, just like my name, blackmagicuniversity.com. You can get the video there. I mean, I put up the testimonial video the other day on the channel. We're getting amazing testimonials. Shout out to everybody who's a part of it and who is currently in the Discord happening right now. Uh, like I said, we at the hour mark. We're gonna get in Q&A, but I know Blue wants to start off with something. Go ahead, Blue.
Yeah, Brother Rod, do you hear me? You want to share with them any of that information?
You muted, bro, brother Rod. All right, you
I
good.
give you Blue. What do you want? What do you want me to go over?
Now, I said, did you want to share any of the 44 information pertaining to Chicago?
The 44 in Chicago. That's Angel Bay, Red Lodge 44, right? And that's his angelic form, Chief Malik Angel Bay. And 44 is the angel number. So that's what we're talking about on the 44 out of Chicago is Angel Bay.
Right. Anything else? The four corners? You want to touch on any of that?
Well, the four corner hustler, that's the Vice Lord line. And the four corner hustlers ties back to the BDs, and the BDs ties back to the GDs to show us that we all one nation and one family. So the four corner hustlers started on the west side of Chicago. Ironically, that's where my mother was running at on the west side of Chicago as a outlaw vice lord biker.
Hmm.
All right. Let's get to some Q&A. Let's get back to the chat. All right, family, give me some questions for the brother. Rod, did you Blue share your Cash App with the family before we get to the Q&A? Blue and Rod, if y'all got a Cash App. I know Blue, I know you do. Share your Cash App with them.
Put it in the chat.
Yeah, tell him and put it in the. Oh man, he done hung up on himself by accident, family. He'll be back. He must have hung up by accident. Blue, you hear me, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, yeah. I don't know if this is somebody put it. I don't know if that's really it right there. Yeah, man, it's a powerful show, Blue.
Yeah, very,
It's some
very,
shit, man. It's
very. The brother has a very concise way of conversing and delivering the information. You know what I'm saying? I'm getting the DNA upgrade. I appreciate it.
indeed, indeed. I like how the platforms, how we're merging together and we're collaborating from different parts of this conscious community or just enlightened community. Like we're really merging together, man. It's
Yeah,
this,
like you see that light behind you, how it
yeah,
got the hexagonal pieces that all come together like a
coming right,
puzzle,
yeah.
and it gives a fullness of illumination with that black center. I think that that's what the
Absolutely.
convergence of this information actually looks like. We all got a piece, and it definitely, you know, to some degree fits together as opposed to repels or don't fit. We just gotta find, where those grooves is at. So, yeah, it's amazing. Um, and like yeah, just being on more of these platforms and these apps, I'm just thoroughly impressed by the level of not only teachers but the student body as well. People that
Yeah.
have been listening and doing their research, and they have parts, pieces, and components to add on as well.
Yo,
It's,
you
it's
know,
just making it a beautiful situation.
he was mentioning something about somebody just put this and made me think about what he was saying about the 19. He was saying how and Lil's
Oh,
children are different from us. They look like us, but they different. And we from some 19 or something like that. I wanna ask, and the reason why I asked is because the brother, when I told you about the dude Rashard Jamal, that brother, when I watched his video, he said we come from the 19th galaxy. So I'm
mm,
hearing this, and your business partner 19 keys. So I'm hearing this 19. So
yeah. And
man,
remember, the alphanumerics of AI is 19. The
mhm.
A is 1 and the I is 9. So, that aspect of what he was speaking on, yeah, I would definitely love to hear you build more on that.
Rod, you hear us? You hear us, my brother?
Yeah,
You
but
back?
yeah, but I actually hear y'all better now.
Oh, hey, that's how it works. That's a magic right there. Hey, Rod, I
Yes,
be hearing
sir.
you mentioned something about the 19 earlier. Uh, I was listening to another brother, Rashard Jamal, speak on and say we're from the 19th galaxy. So I just want to, could you break down a little bit more science about this 19 and how this relates to us and our DNA and who we are?
I ain't from the 19th galaxy. I'm from Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm firstborn of the Earthborn,
Mm-hmm.
right? But the 19 is the sacred seal, right? So it's mathematical properties to the number 19,
Mm-hmm.
and it is the sacred seal to unlock the Islamic religion for one,
Mm-hmm.
because the Quran code is predicated up on the sacred seal of the number 19,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the Hebrew Bible and Torah is also sealed with the number 19. So this is the number 19 code allows you to know in those books what don't belong, and it helps you to put things in a proper order based on the coding of that number.
Indeed,
And
indeed.
right, so it's when you see the number 19, it's the sacred seal. It's also 1 and 9 is actually 9 is the last number. It's actually the omega, and
Mm-hmm.
1 is the alpha, and it's the alpha to the alpha meets omega at 19,
Mm-hmm.
because 1 and 9 equals 10, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now we went from omicron to omega. Omicron is the small o, and omega is the big O in the Greek alphabet. So when you take the 19 and it becomes 10, the omicron is the 9 that becomes the 0 on the place holding in the numbers, right? Because 1 and 9 equals 10, and 1 is alpha, and 0 is omega.
Mm-hmm.
1 is alpha, and 9 is omicron. So it's a sacred sealing comes with the number when you use it correctly in its context, right?
Let's get to a question. Oh man, Tierra wants to know, can you ask him about the 144,000 star seeds?
So those are the tribes. This is biblical dogma that this comes from. We have to reenact all of it because it's trapped up in the psyche and the mental matrix. So now we have to reenact that. The 144,000 star seeds, 144,000 indigo children are the ones required um, to make a shifting of consciousness in a cross section of people, right? So now, when we talking about the star seed, we all star seeds because we all made up of stardust, and everybody is a neutron star, and the mitochondria is a step down capacitor in order to allow your DNA helix to read the sequences, right? So the 144,000 is actually a code, right? It's actually not supposed to be that many numbers. It's a homonym. 144 thou sin, meaning I'm going to send you one angel. This ties back to what he asked Chief Malik Angel Bay, right? This is the Red Lodge knock off of a biblical flip. Now, they see it as a number, 144,000, as a 6-digit number, right? But I hear it as a homonym. 144 is an angel. One angel thou seeing, meaning being sent by one angel, right? So now we have the angel that's the star seed, because you got to be a star seed to be an angel, but you also have to be realized. That means you can't be 3/5 compromised. Only know your uh, mind and your body and your sex drive. You have to also know your spirit and your soul to be 5/5 realized. So now you see what the Dred Scott case is really about. The 3/5 compromise is those who's classified as imbeciles in law. The 5/5 realize is those who know who they are and stand up for their sovereign position in the community and declare their right to reclaim their community and heal it. Right. So when I see the 144,000 star seed, I do not see the same thing that the average person is looking at. Nor do I
Okay.
see the religious context either.
Okay, let's get to the next question. Ashley wants to know, can Rod talk about the government structure we had in place before in the role of John Hanson, if any?
John Hanson is one of the Moors that signed the contract in the blood of Crispus Attucks, the first to die in the so-called American Revolution. They had to write the contract in the blood of one of us in order for it to be a standing contract on this land, because the blood of the righteous shall not be shed in vain. So it had to be given a purpose. So they wrote the contract, the original contract. John Hanson was in on it. So when we talking about the Continental Congress, we talking about being infiltrated, because the Continental Congress would have never been overthrown. And the Continental Congress was the ones who transcribed the Iroquois Constitution onto paper and gave it to the invader conquistadors, right? So a lot of us, don't want us to know that John Hanson was dark skinned with woolly hair, because they want you to think the white man is white, but the white man ain't white. When you want to know who was involved, all you got to do is look in the George Washington Masonic Memorial Fez collection, and you'll see all of the Moors that gave up their fezzes, but you will not find the feathers of the chiefs, because they made the contract with something called a Dawes Road Indian. They didn't make the contract with the true indigenous people of the land. But under the contract, we can't reclaim it until the expiration of the contract, in order that none of the righteous blood be spilled in vain. It's a blood oath. And in the process, we could have been ended the contract because they violated all of their terms. The problem is none of the chiefs was allowed to exercise the power to throw them off the land because they murdered them. When they was telling us about strange fruit from Billie Holiday, those were chiefs they were hanging. Those were the soldiers on the land that was rallying the troops to reclaim the land, and they was murdering them, tarring and feathering them. Why they tarring and feathering them? They was making a mockery of our culture because we eat chicken. Because when Big Mama, we go to Big Mama house, they probably still do it in the NO. You go to Big Mama house, she used to have a big bowl of chicken covered with a towel on the counter. We didn't have no potato chips, Doritos, none of that shit. She have a pot of corn on the cob cut in, little sections. But this is what they used to give us for snacks. And she have a bowl of cornbread cut up in squares on the counter. So when we went to Big Mama house, Big Mama boys, because they're going to always love chicken. They're going to always eat a whole lot of chicken because that's what Big Mama gave them. That was a snack. It's the greatest of comfort foods is the snacks. Right? So the government that they had in place, the Continental Congress, was to undermine the Confederation of Nations that was already agreements between all of the people on the land. Together, we might fight all the time. Me and Blue Pill might bop each other upside the head, but don't come over here fucking with us. Because then you're going to make both of us turn around and be like, who the fuck is you? Right? Because when we understand who he is, we don't kill each other. The enemy taught us to kill each other. We didn't know killing each other until the enemy brought it over here. Every time we organize, they infiltrate. Every time we build, they tear down or they take it from us. So they don't never want us getting the word out of why did Malcolm really leave the Nation of Islam? So Elijah Muhammad could see all of the rats that was laying right next to him that he couldn't see. Malcolm named them all in the public domain, and how do you know he's talking to Elijah and he ain't talking to the police and he ain't talking to the general public? Because he say the police already know this. The only person don't know who the traitors is Elijah. That's why he sent Malcolm to run the red herring. Draw the heat. Them the same niggas that clearance 13X. Father God Allah, 5% Nation. For building with the youth. For taking errant youth off the street. For giving them the understanding that they God within and they use a God within as the first frame of reference for creativity in this world. We can't have him teaching that to them. They gonna fuck around and wake up. Kill him. They murdered him. Brutally. Right? Then the newspaper try to slant all different kind of ways about it so you can't even get to the truth of the matter. They look like us, but they ain't us. Right? So they paid the pale man that they brought over here with them, the Tawny Moors, to be out front to keep us out of their lodges. So they can use our shit to keep us in servitude. So Prince Hall infiltrated, but he didn't have the master key to Garvey got here on the Blue Lodge. And so Noble Drew Ali infiltrated. If you know his history, you know he went and got the keys from the Moorish Zionist temple. And when they realized what happened, it was too late. He was gone. He left New Jersey and came to Chicago. And he set up in Detroit. And he began to teach the doctrine. But everybody in there not going to know what he's talking about. But what they do, they killed him. Them niggas look like us. They own the police. They kids don't never get in trouble. but they make sure ours do. They always find a way to get theirs out, but they don't get ours out because they don't want us to grow up knowing who the fuck we is, right? So once we become conscious, each one teach one. We all gonna reach them. Use whatever platform you got to tell it to the people in the best way you can in order to get the message across in the way that you know how. Don't worry about nobody else's part, just do yours. If we all do our own part, don't worry about who else doing their part. We can get this shit done in short order, you know? So this take us back to the free Larry Hoover agenda. Because all this tied to it. Reclaiming the land is to put the leaders that belong on the land where they belong so they can raise these matriarchs back to prominence. Because as Elijah said, a nation can rise no higher than its women. And our women has been being subjugated by somebody that don't belong here.
All right, let's get to the next question. This question, hold up. This question is for Blue and Rod. Is it possible that we are artificial intelligence from the future who have traveled to the past to have a human experience?
You want to take that first, Blue, or you want me to take it first?
That's an interesting question. It's an interesting question. Simply because when I was growing up reading certain religious texts and I was looking at inscriptions on walls and monuments and all of that, I just always felt that I was reading history backwards. I was like, oh, this is from the future. We ain't even get here yet to do this. We reading about something that we've yet to do. If I'm to buy into the concept or theory of evolution, it don't make sense. It cancels itself out just with basic logic that, how are these monuments, how are these inscriptions in stone, how are they possible without diamond tip instruments, the particular mathematics on these monuments is precise, the golden means and phi and everything. I'm like, this doesn't make sense to the quote unquote logical mind. Do I think that I'm AI from the future though coming back? No, I don't. I don't necessarily think that. But I do acknowledge the fact that when I have encounters with crafts, things of that nature, there's an aspect of that I feel is quantum. That may be me in my future, body or encasement coming back, like how they showed you in X-Men, past and present. But I'm not AI. Mm.
We are sentient intelligence, quantum intelligence actually, but we're not artificial intelligence. Um, the physical body is not us. The physical body is based on a form of technology. And the form of technology that it's based on is organic, silicon based or carbon based, actually,
Carbon based, right?
phalanx
It's
nanotech.
it's almighty intelligence.
Hmm.
Hmm.
But it's still nanotech. You still
Hmm.
have self-replicating nanotechnology at play. The study of the human organism or the living organism, where the cells, the DNA split and recombine to form a different helix, right? That understanding of that science gave birth to what we call nanotech, um, the study of it. So when they study in biology, they're trying to figure out how did God put this mechanism together and how can we duplicate it, right? So there's a book about 4 volumes called Mendelian Inheritance in Man, and it has the DNA encoding for each codon.
Hmm.
If you know what you're looking for, you can unravel the mystery of the DNA. The DNA is a self-replicating organic capacitor that is powered by a mitochondrial matrix to allow this consciousness that exists in a neutron star to be funneled into your physical self. Once it funnels into your physical self, this is what you call the burning. The burning is the soul's fire inside of the organism. And the burning requires oxygen for the combustion. The combustion is the oxidization of the metals in the blood that generates the color of the blood. When you study, you see that in ancient times we had green hue. The green hue was not everybody, it was certain ones, and they were primarily magnesium base over copper base, right? So they was copper and magnesium instead of iron and magnesium, I mean copper. The iron oxidization caused the rusting and the ruddy red complexion. When the magnesium and the copper begin to oxidize, they turn green. So some of the babies are still born with the green hue because their magnesium levels that they drew from the mother is sufficient enough to facilitate that transfer of oxidization in the blood. They doctors tell you it's bruising from being in the womb. That ain't no goddamn bruise, because if it was, it would be sore to the touch when you touch it, right? So it ain't no bruise. It's a coloration from magnesium synthesis in the fetal as it developed, because it drew more magnesium than iron from mama. Because
Yes.
she probably didn't have sufficient quantities of iron, and the baby is going to
Right.
take the magnesium to replace it.
And that's key because both of those deficiencies impact melanated people specifically, and that's a cause, they say, for the majority, once again, of the uptick of diseases, right? Because you need comparable parts of magnesium to actually activate calcium in your body for it to work. So they wasn't lying when they said milk does a body good. What I meant by that, not milk, but calcium. But you can't use calcium unless you have equal parts magnesium. And then the iron deficiency, 90% of people in this country is iron deficient, but it impacts melanated people more specifically because you can tell by our the numbers, the larger numbers that we have with sickle cell infliction. You know what I'm saying? So that iron and that magnesium, those are two key elements or minerals, you know.
Especially the iron in the women. When the women become iron deprived, they have prolonged menstrual cycles, painful menstrual cycles, and heavy bleeding. And when they are in stasis with the metals in their blood system, they have shorter periods with lesser amounts of blood. Some of them just spot, right? They don't have a full-fledged flowing menstrual like other women. But it goes back to the chemistry. You know, what metals do you hold on? Magnesium is actually a synthesizer for all of the trace metals that the body uses. And the vitamin C is the synthesizer for all of the rest of the vitamins. So if your doctor puts you on a vitamin, he don't give you a vitamin C with it, he don't know what he's doing. If he puts you on ferrous sulfate or ferrous nitrate, whatever form of iron he's giving you, and he don't give you magnesium, you can't use it no way because it's a facilitator. You can't use it without it.
Let's get to the next question. How do we as a collective raise the matriarch? Are we getting further away from such?
Actually, the calling for Larry Hoover to come forth in order to raise the matriarchy, the three chieftains of the land, the three high chiefs' job is to first come forward and give a report to the people on the conditions of the land, and then introduce them to the grand matriarch on the land. So this instrumental and it's direct and it's almost here. Soon as enough of us understand what's going on in our culture, we can raise the matriarchy once again, and that is the restoration of ultimate balance on earth.
Indeed. Let's get to somebody said, what are the best iron tablets?
Um,
Yeah, we
I
don't.
got a herbalist that I get that information from. Normally have his own, so I'm not really sure
Yeah.
what one to refer you to because there's a lot of good ones and there's a lot of them that's some garbage.
Right. You want to avoid all iron oxide pills. That's iron that they extract from iron ore, and those things typically bind our women specifically, right? So Dr. Sabi always spoke about iron phosphate. That's plant-based iron, and you can get that in liquid form. You can get it from my mother now. She got a sale. She got a sale on the website greenleaf-herbs.com. Right, you get the oxyhemo. That's the classical iron tonic. Right, that's the classical iron tonic. So yeah, that was the key to a lot of what Sabi did in this healing modality. Is he was able to utilize iron phosphate, which is absorbable and integratable, especially by the melanated body.
Another
Right.
thing about iron oxide is it's already used anyway, and you can't use something that's already been used. And oxidized iron is rust.
Mm-hmm. All right, next question. Lakasha wants to know any connection between left hand people, dyslexia, and the world presented to us upside down slash backwards.
It's a 100% correlation because we're supposed to be ambidextrous first off,
Mm.
but because they teach us to be left brain dominant, most people are right-handed because the right hand is controlled by the left brain. The right brain dominant, which is the mother brain, abstract, is left-handed. When you learn to become ambidextrous, you're learning to use both sides of your brain, right? And the world being presented to us upside down and backwards makes it easier to trap you only on one side of the brain.
Blue, you want to add anything to that, Blue, or for?
Yeah, I mean, he pretty much covered it. You know what I'm saying? We've continuously said that in the upside down, topsy turvy world, you know, if you can't orientate yourself, how can you pivot? How can you do whatever's necessary if you don't know what angle that you're coming from? And I also spoke about the physical experience I had when I traveled across the Atlantic Ocean. I said what? I said I activated the other hemisphere of my brain. I was dual hemispheric thinking when I came back. I understood shit better. I was calculating at a much my body, the homeostasis of my body started becoming balanced because I did not actively activate the other hemisphere of my brain. I was just stuck in Western thought and in the West, physically located in the Western hemisphere.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So,
Mm.
and then metaphysically or metaphorically, what they say that is two hemispheres of your brain. That's the eastern and the western, and the middle column is the middle passage. So that would be the Atlantic Ocean. So when I crossed that ocean, I had got dual hemispheric activation. So yeah,
Indeed. All right,
and then
we're
when
gonna.
I came back, I've been practicing techniques to brush with my opposite hand. Like
You
you
mentioned
said,
you mentioned that before. Yeah, you
explain
mentioned that.
about
Yeah.
the ambidextrous nature of utilizing both hemispheres.
I make sure one thing I do, family. I told y'all I developed the practice of writing my affirmations with my left hand, and I started doing that during the making of Holy Ghost One. the album with me and Kambada just came to my mind to write affirmations with my left hand, and then shit, it worked for me. So yeah, man, that us being ambidextrous makes a lot of sense, family. I'm gonna take 5 more questions. Then we're gonna get out of here. Don't want to hold the brother too long, but I know you're enjoying the show. We're gonna get to the next question. Ashley wants to know, how can we identify the black conquistadors today? Any tips for identifying the enemy? I can't hear you. I can't hear you. You sound.
Anybody tell you to get some paperwork to validate who you is a slave catcher. If they tell you you got to file anything with this defunct system to validate who you are, they're a slave catcher. If they ain't out slave catching, look for the one that come around in a peaceful group, always trying to sow seeds of dissension. That's their job. When they catch a righteous congregated, they want to start some shit between two of them. Right? So this is the identifier of the character type. They can't help it. They can't stand to see us getting along. They can't stand to see us talking about ousting them from off our land for the atrocity they committed on our people. They're going to find every excuse to try to tell you that you black. You ain't black. Crayons is black. So when you show me somebody that can match a crayon, I've seen some people match a purple one, but before I ain't seen people match a black one. Right? But those are the telltale signs that they trying to trap you back into slavery again and revalidate their old defunct contracts. Their contracts is up. Their time is up. Right? But that's how you identify them. They come in, talking about the people of the land, don't know what they talking about, and that you need to come down here and file this paperwork and give me some money. Anybody that's overcharging you for services to give you back your history, they ain't us. I do this shit for free because we need to wake the fuck up. They not gonna do nothing for free. They want you to pay them at every turn. Right? They not interested in the liberation of the people. They interested in how can they be comfortable living over the people that subjugate.
Yeah,
you don't want
not
to
the
liberate.
liberation of the people, the liquidation of the people.
Yep. So that's how you can tell the difference.
Can he speak on the Indians they taught us about in school through the Trail of Tears?
So that's the great exodus from the so-called Bible stories. The Trail of Tears was actually a POW march. They was trying to find somewhere to put these people without them alerting other people. So the Trail of Tears is called that for more than one reason, but the main reason is because the sorrow that came along with it and inflicted a lot of misery. And it was Dawes Roll Indians incorporated with the indigenous people of the land. The Dawes Roll Indians ain't from here. Those are the ones that they created the contracts with, pretending that they were us.
Yeah, I keep forgetting to take it off mute, family. Are there really pyramids in the Grand Canyon?
It's pyramids all over the world. You can't go nowhere on Earth and not find some pyramids somewhere. Some of them they told you was mountains are not mountains, but pyramids covered with trees.
Right there in Ohio.
You said in Ohio, Blue?
It's all kind of pyramidal structures, mound structures. We was
Yeah,
mound builders,
yeah, all over.
you know. So we got it's all over the land. It's not hard. You can Google that shit. It's easy to find. They'll show you where it's at, and then tell you didn't see what you just saw. You can go there and literally see it with your own eyes. Walk on the pyramid, and then they're gonna tell you that it wasn't what you thought it was. Imagine the audacity of that.
Hmm. Yeah.
You've been there, and they tell you it ain't that.
That's a fact.
they,
You,
they,
it's like I know what this is,
they be
and
like,
they'll
nah.
even.
They be like, nah. Be like, nah. Man. The Torch wants to know: is there any of us that did go to Africa?
That was the Liberian movement. They actually took a whole bunch of us to
Yeah,
Africa.
yeah, he took a lot.
They took more of us to Africa than they brought Africans over here.
Hmm.
They was trying to get us off the land because the only way they can reclaim the land is it has to be abandoned. That means it don't have a caretaker. That's the only way they can claim the land. But we still here. They thought we wasn't gonna never figure out who we was, but we ain't never forget. Everybody that's probably watching this, somebody in their family talking about we got Indian in our family. No, we don't got Indian. We are the Indian families.
Hmm.
We the ones. We was already here.
Two more. Well, we'll see. How do you feel about exploding head syndrome and deja vu?
Well, deja vu is more my territory than exploding head syndrome. I'm not quite familiar with that term. But deja vu, it can come from a series of things because you know nothing is new under the sun. And sometimes the circumstances is so similar to a circumstance in a past life till it's almost identical. And you have a aha moment. I did this before. You did do it before, but only you had on blue pants instead of green ones. That was the thing that was different. When you have a deja vu, figure out what's different. Then you know that, oh, okay, I experienced it in the last life, one of these prior lifetimes, and only it was a little bit different.
Mhm. Um, Romana says, "Can someone please talk about melanated women being having Rh negative blood?"
It's not just melanated people, it's also unmelanated people that have Rh negative blood. Contrary to popular opinion, the largest cross section of Rh negative in the melanated community is O negative, right? And that's they call it a universal blood type. And they can give anybody blood, but they can't take blood from anybody, only from certain ones, right? But yeah, so the melanated woman is a original bloodline of the negative blood, the Rh negative blood, but they're not the only ones. It's across all communities have Rh negative blood.
Mhm. All right. Can you ask him to speak on the? Oh no, we already went over that question. Uh, these are. Let me see. Talk about Jesus is actually ISIS.
All you got to do is go back to the Greek. If you go back to the Greek, the spelling for the word that they translating as Jesus is Iesous. In the Greek pronunciation, the capital I automatically silences the E, goes hard on the S, silences the O, go hard on the US. It's ISIS. One language back. That's all you got to do.
All right, we're gonna take one more question, then I'm gonna let these gentlemen close it out. Who was the first to actually civilize the white man?
The white man. The white man ain't white, first off. And at some point in time, all people have decided to live what we would consider in this day and time a savage lifestyle. But Mother Nature does that for a reason. Everything she do is for a reason, but we don't always understand it.
All right. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up with that. I'm trying to see if there's all right, well, this is the last one. Last one. Who were the Washita Moors? What about the Empire Washita de Mundia? I hope I'm saying that.
Yeah, so that translates as the Empire of the Washita Mound Builders. And the Washita Moors was restored under Empress Tierra Verdiasi Gostinel Bay, and she served them eviction off the tribal lands in Louisiana, right? So they try to keep that silent because they don't want us to know that we had already began reclaiming our. She did it off the treaties they violated, right? Well, we passed that now. They never honored their treaty. So because they never honored a single treaty and they wrote them all, they forfeit. Because they forfeit, they automatically have to get the fuck gone. Right. So the Washita is what you call a grand family, which means that there's a series of families that fall under the Washita Nation of Moors. And these are all different tribes, and they all have what you call a confederation, and they have a listing or a family book or book of life where all of the tribal leaders that came together to support the Washitas reclaiming the land, they were all recorded. So the Midwest representative for that Washita Moors was at one point Ravana Bay. I'm not sure who it is now. And she had ambassadors dispatched all over the land. She was also associated with the United Nubian Nation of Moors. They had an affiliation with them, right? And then she had another allegiance with a bigger group called the Collective Indigenous Nations of the Land. So all these different groups came together. They all tribes. They on her roll because she had the blood and the right to make the call, and they backed her play. And that's what we're supposed to be doing right now with restoring the kings to the land to raise the matriarchs.
What is a Skywalker?
The Skywalkers, those are the men who draw their power from the upper atmosphere. Um, Tuki would be classified as a Skywalker. He's represented by the walking lightning, that they call the Crooked Man, right? So he would be classified as a Skywalker. But in the military, now Skywalkers in modern times are those who build high-rise buildings and walk the rafters at the top. Those who do trapezes, walking tight ropes, those are all Skywalkers in modern times. But the Skywalkers were tribes that were fearless of the heights and that would use mountainous regions to build civilizations on, like Machu Picchu, right? And when the Chinese man recognized Tookie and called him Crip, 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 he was giving him the Chinese key to the Crooked Man. And over there, they call the Crooked Man Crip, Crip, Crip in China.
Mm-hmm.
And it just so happened that it's an English word, Crip.
Mm.
So Tookie was identified by the Asians as the Crooked Man. We got an allegiance in our community with the Asians who were railroad builders in the Southwest. And the allegiance is why you have so many of us with the name Lee in our name. My auntie name is Verdi Lee. My uncle named Henry Lee. My father named Arthur Lee. Right? I got a cousin named Bobby Lee. The Lee is the from the agreement we made with the clans that came from Asia. So this is so we will always be connected. So you know him, Jimmy Lee, all them Lees.
Hey, wow, this is stuff I never heard before. This is some
Yeah,
interesting.
man.
This is some
You know,
interesting.
he has a wonderful way of putting things into perspective. I do, before we do exit this evening, wanted to know, like, what do you think the magnetism of those areas, Illinois, Missouri, was for melanated people who migrated from the South? Why did all roads lead to those areas in the Midwest? Ohio, where the legend of the Ohio Giants come from. One of the main things I want to just posit real quick, that region of the planet that they were saying in ancient times, or older days or what have you, Ohio was the breadbasket of, it was the greenest part of America because the ionization of the atmosphere. They say that the tribes there knew how to do the dances in particular to make the thunder and the lightning activate. So that's where the vegetation came from. Hence the fact that Ohio has the largest amount of biodiversity, and that's where the sea banks are at as well. So why do you think that our people in particular gravitated towards those regions?
We go to Chicago is not no. They tell us Chicago was founded by Jean Baptiste du Sable, John the Black Baptist. This can't be true, because in our culture, we knew Chicago to be an ancient metropolis. Where Cook County sit is where the doula center, what we would call a grand doula center. It was the biggest doula center in the Midwest, and this is where the certain women would go to have their children. They turned it into a county hospital, right there, Cook County Hospital on the west side of Chicago. And they would use the map, I mean the calendar, the stars positioning to determine when the kings would be born. And there's certain cities. It's Chicago, it's Detroit, it's New York, Miami, New Orleans, Atlanta, um, Los Angeles. Um, it's a few more of them, but these were all metropolises where
Memphis.
they had doula centers for the chieftains of the land to be born with special care when they was born. Like they didn't allow them to be born with spotlights in their face, right? They would be born in what they call ambient lit room with candlelight. Why would they do that? Because the old souls, the bright lights jars the memory, and it makes it where they won't be able to draw back their memory until they up in age. They won't remember who they is until years later from that flash of bright light when they come out. Right? It does the same thing to them at birth that flasher does in Men in Black.
Mm.
Erases their memory
Woo.
of their past lives.
Mm.
So this is why your children have to be born under spotlights.
Mm.
Right? They're supposed to be born if possible, you give birth with the woman in the seated position, squatted in the water. That's the best way, and most doulas do it that way. It's easier on the body of the woman, and it's easier on the psyche of the child. Another thing is you don't cut the umbilical cord immediately. You first have to let the mother-baby bonding process take place. While the baby suckle, the mother look him in his eyes. They don't allow that to happen in the hospital. They snatch the baby, slap him on the ass, and rush him off to the nursery. Right? That way they can never
And
probably pair
hit them
bond in order to get that connection they need.
hit them with the fructose water, right? To get them
Yep,
bound and binded to that sugar addiction from the gate.
yep. So
Bro,
these cities were metropolises for the. Anytime the Chiefs come back, they coming back to one of them cities. Right now, it's more Chiefs from the land born in New York than anywhere else because that's where the dirt went down. That's when they came in and started laying their conjures down from New York. They got their gated community of Negroes, conquistadors in upstate New York, where they got us thinking that ain't no motherfuckers that look like us ever been rich over here. And them motherfuckers been rich the whole time. I know the works and the tribulation of those who say they are rich. I mean, they are poor, but they rich. Those who say they are Jews, but are the synagogue of Satan. This what they talking about.
Mm.
They run around, they come around us like they broke, asking us for cigarettes and can I get a drink and exploiting our good nature just because they can. Then they go back up to their gated communities and act like we don't exist.
Hey Rob, before we get out here, I want my people to show you some support for your time, energy, and the knowledge that you gave today. What's your cash app, brother? I want to put it in the
Uh, it's a $ capital S,
uh,
lowercase I, lowercase K,
uh,
capital A, lowercase P, lowercase E.
I just put it in the chat. Make sure y'all support this brother, man. This is a wonderful conversation. I see we got about 1,400 people in the chat right now. You know, I want all 1,400 of y'all to, you know, so we like the video, do something, but show support, man. You ain't getting this shit on other platforms, or, you know, on mainstream TV. So, you know, show the love, family. Show the love. I did want to get to one. I keep saying last question, but that's how you know when something's good. I just keep going. But I do want to just give you this one last question from somebody in the chat. I didn't see them post it, and where is it at? Well, I don't. Okay, yeah. Will the Galactic Federation meet with Larry Hoover? I've been
It's,
hearing people. Yeah, okay.
yeah. So the Galactic Federation, the message that I was given that I translated said they want to see Larry Hoover and they don't want to talk to nobody else. Right? Because I solved the riddle. He my chief. Therefore, they want to see my leader. I can't send them Biden. I gotta send them Larry. That's my chief. I can't send them nobody else. How they gonna meet him? Where they gonna meet him? I don't know. I don't know how it's going. I don't know the intricacies of it like that. I'm just going by the science they gave,
Mm.
right, and what they told me what the instructions was, right. So the government agreed to produce them when a certain amount of people stopped supporting the old system and started pushing this agenda. So they gonna meet with them. It's just a matter of when. It's up to us. This stuff's supposed to have been over. We the ones holding it up because we keep supporting the old dead system and we not supporting our own people in their quest to reclaim what's rightfully theirs by the laws of nature.
Leave your contact information, both of y'all, man. We getting out of here. Leave your contact information so the people can get in touch with y'all.
Well, I ain't hard to find. They can find me on Instagram, Rod Hayes. I'm in Facebook jail on Facebook right now, but I'm Rod Hayes on Facebook. My current profile picture is a UFO. Um, my, it's probably the same on
Man, you told
Instagram.
me you was from Earth, man. Now you got UFOs, man.
Hey, look, I focus on Earth because I'm from the Earth. But it don't mean I don't communicate with people that ain't from Earth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and sometimes I don't even know they ain't from Earth
Mm.
until they tell me.
Mm.
Right. So, um, the messages sometimes come from other tribes on the land. I
Mm.
still translate them. I don't care if they come from the tribes of the land or the tribes on the stars.
Mm.
When the message come in, if I know how to translate it, I'm gonna translate it and tell y'all what it say.
You left all
Blue
your
Pill, I
contact.
appreciate you coming in with me, bro. I just wanted to see you in here and tap into some of the mathematics.
Mm.
I appreciate you, man. I really do. You know what I'm saying? I learned a lot this evening. You feel me? And I'm sure the people in attendance were able to benefit immensely, from you sharing your mind with us. It's a beautiful thing. May we continue, to move forward in strength and really incorporate this information and be, in our heart for all political prisoners. You know what I'm saying? All of these people who are unfairly and unjustly underneath the yoke of this system, we have to do our part. And our part of pushing back sometimes can just be as easy as calling it forth, proclaiming it, making a proclamation, out loud or in your own personal mind. Like, come on, freedom up. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, we need to see some stones get turned over.
For
Facts.
sure, for sure.
Hey, with that being said, family, I want to thank Rod Hayes for coming on the show. I want to thank the brother Blue Pill for joining, and I want to thank y'all for listening. The brother be back again, man. This is a powerful show, man. So we out of here, family. Enjoy your night. Peace.
Yep.
Peace.